I must tell also that in the 80s, and I think this happened all over the places and all over the world, I think the governments used Islam and used religion to fight against the left, the extreme left. That was a trend here in the United States, and the United States used it against the Soviets in Afghanistan and everywhere else. It was an alliance between, let's say, this more traditional Islam. It was Islam against the left, Islam against the non-religious Marxists, the godless Marxists, and it was a way to counter all this revolutionary people, all this revolutionary thinking that was coming from the Soviet Union and all the left in the 60s and the 70s. And I think that in Morocco we used exactly the same thing, because the danger, everybody was seeing that the danger was coming from the left, especially during the Cold War, and it was a way to stop that, a way to stop the world of religion. But as always, you don't play with religion. Religion is dangerous. It's a dangerous field, and you have to be very careful with religion. You have to give religion its own place and keep it there. So little by little we have seen in the 80s in Morocco, and I'm giving you the example of Morocco, but I think you can, I think it happened all over the places. You could see more and more religion. You could see more and more people trying to go back to what they call a Muslim identity. But I think it was a very narrow way of seeing the Muslim identity. I was brought up, for me, Islam was Bible. I was brought up by my grandparents and my parents, and for us, Islam was a very open religion. It was about, I'm telling you about my grandparents. For them, religion has its own place, and the world has its own place. Religion should not be, there should never be too much religion. This is how we were brought up. And suddenly we were seeing more and more religion everywhere. And at the end of the 80s, we could see things that we had never heard of. First of all, the scarf, the hijab, and then people saying things and explaining Islam in a way that, in a very narrow way, a very closed way. Everything was haram, everything was sin. And none of us understood that. And in the 90s it went even worse. Even worse, and you could see more of this in Morocco. But in Morocco we have the king who is the commander of the faithful, and because we have in Morocco the commander of the faithful, and he's respected, he could always steer things towards the right path, saying that this is not Islam, and this is Islam. So we had the Council of the Muslims, the Council of the Scholars. So we had some protection there. But nonetheless, in the 90s we have seen strange things. More and more people, men with beards, more and more women with scarves, with the hijab. And people, these movements and these people trying to impose a religion, as I said, a very narrow religion. We started to see, these people trying to have beaches for women and beaches for men, and it was absolutely shocking. It was not Morocco, it was not Morocco we were used to. Unfortunately, in Morocco it didn't become too strong. It was just they were trying. What is interesting is to see how people reacted. Well, you can see that you have more religion. Even those who were not going to the extremes were still feeling more that religion was important. It was part of their national identity. In Morocco, Ramadan was very important. It's fasting during Ramadan than there used to be in the 60s and the 70s. And what you can see is that all kinds of interpretations of Islam, you can see people telling things, very unbelievable things about Islam. And I think that the reason is that, first of all, it's ignorance. People don't know what Islam is. And I think that during the late 70s, beginning of the 80s, what happened is that we did not teach Islam. And so anyone who had read 2-3 pages of the Quran started to talk about Islam, issuing fatwas or saying that he was a scholar in Islam and inventing things. While before, I remember that before you could speak about Islam or give an interpretation of Islam, you had to be a scholar, a religious scholar, and to be a recognized religious scholar, you had to go through 14 years of studies. So what happened after? So that was starting to become dangerous, especially because you had the violent Islam, the violent political Islam that was coming up, especially in the 90s, the Al-Qaedas and other